There, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. It is so great to be along with you. I got great news. Christopher Wray stepping down. This will at least save us from having to go through a battle of President Trump trying to force him out when he takes office. Now, many of you probably remember it was President Trump who appointed Christopher Wray to be the FBI director. President Trump didn't make many mistakes in office, but that was a mistake. This guy turned out to be swamp creature extraordinaire, sewer dweller extraordinaire. We're going to talk a little about swamp versus sewer a little bit later in the program when we start talking about where the economy's going and spending in Washington. But I am so happy that Christopher Wray is stepping down. This is how it played out on MSNBC.
The FBI director just resigned. Christopher Wray announced a moment ago that he will leave by the end of the current administration, 3 years before the end of his 10-year term. He made the decision public at a town hall for the FBI's workforce today, telling the team he was leaving in order to avoid dragging the Bureau deeper into a political fray. President-elect Donald Trump made it clear he didn't want Wray to continue, saying he will nominate Kash Patel to take his place, which meant Wray had no choice but to either step down or be fired by Donald Trump.
Well, you know he would have been a hero to those on the left if Trump fired him. In some respects, I'm surprised he didn't go for the battle. Now, here's the thing. You got many members of Congress saying to Christopher Wray, don't stray too far from Washington, D.C. We're going to be calling you back because we want to get to the bottom of how the FBI was weaponized. We know it was weaponized, but how did they manage to manipulate so many inside the FBI? Maybe it was a manipulation. Maybe they loaded up the ranks of the FBI with, quite frankly, leftists that agree with the radical ideology of the Democrat Party, and they knew from the very start they were going to go after President Trump. Now, I've got to believe the majority of FBI agents are good folks who just want to catch criminals. And it's as you move into the higher ranks of the FBI that you got this political hitman structure aimed and designed to take out President Trump. So now Kash Patel is on the way. I told you, huge fan of Kash Patel. He is a friend of mine. There's no secret about that. He's a common fixture on the Real America's Voice show. Well, Josh Hawley came on and he talked about Christopher Wray be stepping down and Kash Patel moving on in.
Well, I think, first of all, Laura, he pledged to me today that he would be absolutely transparent and he would make available to the public all the facts about who, for instance, came up with the idea to try to recruit spies in Catholic churches. Who is it who gave the green light to send SWAT teams to the homes of pro-life demonstrators? Who is it that green-lighted sending the FBI to the homes of parents who went to school board meetings, as you were just reporting on? All of that needs to come out. So far, do you know who's been disciplined, let alone fired for any of that? Nobody. Zero. He told me today he was going to get to the bottom of all of it, that there would be complete and total transparency, and that would be a terrific first step towards restoring some confidence in the FBI.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that I believe Kash Patel will get to the bottom of it. He's got to put good people around him. He's got to put people in leadership positions in the FBI that are willing to stand firm, take the arrows, willing to take the heat that the mainstream media and the swamp is going to enact on them, including from within the FBI. That's going to be the most dangerous part of going to work inside the FBI is what will some of those deep staters do to try to ruin the people that are trying to restore the integrity and reputation of what once was the greatest law enforcement agency on the face of the earth. I believe it can be restored to that, and I believe Kash Patel believes it can be restored to that, and I believe there are agents inside the FBI that believe it can be restored to that. All right, other news I want to talk about is this idea that those on the left now somehow believe that murder justifies an outcome, justifies the ends, justifies the means, meaning that murder is justified if you want to make change inside the healthcare system. This is insanity, including Elizabeth Warren now coming out and making some what I believe to be outrageous claims. But she hates corporate America. Now, I hate corporate greed. I hate monopolies. I hate pay-to-play schemes. I hate cronyism. I love free markets. and I love capitalism. And capitalism operates best on free markets. The problem is right now in America, we have so many people putting their hands in and manipulating these markets, rigging it against us. And when I say so many people, I'm talking about Washington, first and foremost, helping their friends out. So we're going to play Elizabeth Warren's comments here in a moment. But first and foremost, folks, let me tell you about my friends over at Energized Health. I feel like I'm in some of the greatest shape of my life. I'm 55 years old. I'm well hydrated at a cellular level, folks, and this is key. Intercellular hydration. If you don't know what that is, it has been scientifically proven to improve lives in so many ways, including shedding pounds, building muscle mass, sharpening your mind, cleaning up your skin, all of it. Go to energizedhealth.com/grant. Their program is amazing. It is so simple. Change a little bit about the way you eat, change a little bit about the way you work out, but nothing crazy. This is not a fad diet, a fad workout scheme. This is the real deal that will change your life when you get hydrated at a cellular level. Again, energizedhealth.com/grant. Learn about what it can do for you. And I am living proof. I'm 15 pounds lighter. I've kept the weight off now. I'm 4 or 5 months into this, and I'm feeling great, and I'm never changing. I promise you that. EnergizedHealth.com/grant. Pay them a visit today. All right, I told you I'd play Elizabeth Warren. We know that CEO Brian Thompson, we know that he was shot and killed. That's it right there. It's horrible. I mean, this is kind of one of those very crude guns we now know. The suspect in this case, the suspect is Luigi Mangione, if that's him in the video. What a horrific murder of a man who was a CEO of what is believed to be one of the largest healthcare companies on earth. And there he goes across the street, off onto the start of a manhunt. They ultimately catch him, and you know how the story goes from there. Now, there are people out there that are literally cheering this idea that that he was shot and killed for a, quote, greater good? Are you kidding me? This is Elizabeth Warren.
We've been talking a lot about this Luigi Mangione, the case about the United Healthcare CEO. People are very angry at United Healthcare, I think for good reason, denying care and the whole system. And we were just talking in the previous block, killing a CEO is not the way you change. You have to regulate them, right? And so we've got attempts to try to rein in some of these big businesses. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which was your creation. The Trump administration wants to get rid of it. That is like protecting people from like credit card fraud. Yeah. What happens if that goes away?
So look, terrible for individuals, but stop and think overall about the social contract. Part of the deal in how we've kept this democracy, this economy, this country on a fairly steady path for more than 200 years has been that those at the top pay a little more in taxes, are a little less rich than they otherwise might be, and everybody else at least gets a chance. Yeah. And what happens when you turn this into the billionaires run it all is they get the opportunity to squeeze every last penny. Yeah. And look, we'll say it over and over. Violence is never the answer. This guy gets a trial who's allegedly killed the CEO of United Health. But you can only push people so far. And then they start to take matters into their own hands. Yeah.
You can only push people so far, and they take matters into their own hands. You got a healthcare CEO. I'm not the biggest fan of healthcare companies in America. I think government's really the responsible for why they suck now with Obamacare and all the pressures and the squeeze that they've done, buying up, not government buying it up, but hospital chains buying up doctors' offices. The whole healthcare system's screwed. It's basically run by the federal government. Doesn't mean you murder somebody. I wouldn't even consider it. I mean, there's all kinds of industries I'm not happy with, but murder? The ends justify the means. That is not a legitimate statement. And she says, Elizabeth Warren, a sitting United States senator, you can only push people too far. That is a wink and a nod, giving people the okay to go out there and commit violence. It is not okay to commit violence, folks. It is not. And then I see this. This is wanted posters put up across New York City. He has an ex. That's Brian Thompson. There's another one. These are wanted posters put up across New York City of healthcare CEOs. What has happened to the left that they have become so radical that they think violence is the answer? Well, we've seen this progression. Why would we be surprised? They wanted to tell us that conservatives aren't violent. Conservatives are out there to protect life at every step of the way. And so now we have radicals who, if they don't like an outcome of a trial, they'll resort to burning down auto zones, destroying cities and towns, looting mom and pop stores, beating up and killing cops. Now they've resorted to murdering CEOs, and they're being cheered on by sitting United States senators. You have got to be absolutely kidding me. I saw this on TikTok.
The news is trying to make us feel really bad about the healthcare CEO that got assassinated. And I actually don't feel bad at all. I actually rejoice. So no, I don't feel bad that he got assassinated. I actually think it's karmic justice.
Justice? Now, where would she get an idea like that? Oh, yeah. She'd get an idea like that from Elizabeth Warren and the rest of the Democrats that egg on violence like this. They hate corporations. It's not just big energy, right? It's anybody that has any kind of success. Now, United Healthcare, is everybody satisfied with their insurance? No. Could there be some changes? Absolutely. Could Congress step in and do some things? And it's not mandating more coverage, by the way. It's giving people the opportunity to take some high-value deductibles. I have a $3,000 deductible. I'm glad I could. I'd take a $10,000 deductible if I can. I'm a pretty healthy guy, and I'm pretty well off. I'd pay the first 10 grand out of pocket if I was able to save a lot of money every month. Federal government wouldn't allow those plans to be in place at a level where my employer can offer them. I've got to pay for everybody else. All of that then leads to less and less service. If the healthcare companies want to make money, they've got to provide less and less and less. And this is why you see all these denied claims coming out. But it doesn't deserve the CEO to be shot in the back. Here's Forbes. He talked about all of this violent rhetoric from those on the left.
It's encouraging vigilantism. It's encouraging lynching. It's encouraging people to take things in their own hands. And there's blood on those hands. Posters in New York, wanted posters for company executives. What is that? That's an invitation to murder. And these people who put those posters up, she should be also prosecuted, inciting violence. Now, she tried to walk it back a little bit later. Right. But to say that, there's an injustice done, let's go murder people, shows the moral rot of the left and a real stain on the culture of this society.
Moral rot from those on the left. I could not have said it better myself. You know, here's what's interesting. I should have pulled some of these clips for you, and I'm sorry I didn't. So there are fires raging in Southern California right now. You know, I do radio out there, AM 870 from 6 to 9 Pacific time. And where Pepperdine is, in Malibu, it is being threatened by fires. And I've been listening to the local news media interview these students at Pepperdine. I'm going to tell you something. Some of the most well-spoken, well-thought-out, even-keeled, measured college kids you'd ever listen to. Now, it's very expensive to go to the school. I'm sure they come from families where they all went to good schools. They got a great education. But these seem to be very good kids. Where they are on the political spectrum, I have no idea. They probably liberals. Yes. Who cares? I don't want anybody injured, hurt. I don't want property damaged. Liberal, Republican, whatever. Please make the fires go away. Get them put out. But these kids are very well spoken as opposed to somebody like this.
The news is trying to make us feel really bad about the healthcare CEO that got assassinated. And I actually don't feel bad at all. I
mean, that's a lunatic. What would her mother say? I don't know. Maybe her mother would applaud her. Maybe her mother would agree with her if she said that. I'm not sure. So what got me on this was a story from earlier this week where this Taylor Lorenz, I think she used to be with the Washington Post and she was at Vox. She got fired for these comments.
I do believe in the sanctity of life. And I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, because it feels like...
Seriously?
I mean...
Joy in a man's execution?
Maybe not joy, but certainly not empathy. Because again,
we're
this is a
watching
man
the footage.
responsible for
How can this make you joyful? This guy's a husband, he's a father,
millions,
and he's been gunned down in the middle of Manhattan. Why does that make you joyful?
Thousands of Americans that he murdered. So are the tens of thousands of Americans, innocent Americans, who died because greedy health insurance executives like this one push policies of denying care to the most vulnerable people. And the many millions of Americans that have watched people that I care about suffer and in some cases die because of lack of health care.
So should they all be killed then? Should they all be killed, these healthcare executives? Would that make you even more joyful?
No, that would not.
Well, why not?
And,
why are you laughing?
I think because it wouldn't fix the system.
You seem to find the whole thing hilarious.
I find your question funny.
A bloke's been murdered in the street. I don't find it funny at all.
I don't find it funny that tens of thousands of Americans die every year and because they are denied life-saving health care from people like the CEO. Now, I want to fix the system. You're right. We shouldn't be going around shooting each other with vigilante justice. No. I think that it is.
So she finally gets to it, that no, we shouldn't be shooting people, after she said she had joy in the fact that it was done and that millions of people are being denied coverage, so let's go kill the man. And literally holding more CEOs accountable. Folks, it's crazy. This got even worse. Just watch this interaction.
Have a conversation about healthcare in this country. That's fine. Let's have that all day long. But to be joyful, or even to say you're not empathetic about somebody losing their life when they leave behind two young boys, especially during the holiday season, the same day that millions of New Yorkers are celebrating a tree lighting. I mean, that's just too far for me. A bridge too far. The loving and tolerant left is at it again, Piers.
Yeah, Taylor, I don't mean to be rude, but why the fuck are you laughing all the time? I don't get it. Sorry, apologies for my language, but honestly, I find it unbelievable. What are you laughing at?
I am laughing at Tommy's insane mischaracterization of why people are angry. It has nothing to do with Occupy Wall Street. This is a feeling that people feel across the left and the right. You mentioned Ben Shapiro earlier in his video about the healthcare exec. I encourage people to check the comment section on that video, okay? 100% of America is united on this, or rather the majority of America is united on this. We do not think...
Oh, God, shut the you-know-what up. I won't be like Pierce and curse. It's not usually what I do. But, well, it's not usually what I do in front of the camera. Lord knows I curse all the time. That's a little admission from me. I did grow up in New York. I don't like to tell people that either, but yes, cursing is part of my vocabulary, but not on camera. I don't like to do it, but I get where Pierce is coming from. I don't blame him. You know, I have my issues with him here or there. Sometimes he's on point. Sometimes he's not. I guess that's what makes him entertaining and surprising, just like Bill Maher. You know, I pretty much know him, but sometimes he surprises me. I hope sometimes I surprise you. You know, that makes a good show. This Taylor Lorenz, though, nothing surprises me about her. Nothing at all. I mean, she's just 100% awful news. So then there was this woman who comes out on this. So she is a professor at the University of Pennsylvania, where this Luigi Mangione went, the suspect in all of this. Just never been prouder to be a professor at the University of Pennsylvania with her purple, stupid hair. Well, she's not getting fired for it. In fact, she had to come out with a tweet. I guess this was a couple days ago. Late last night, I posted a TikTok as well as several stories on my Instagram that were completely insensitive and inappropriate, and I retract them wholly. I do not condone violence, and I am genuinely regretful of any harm the posts have caused. Oh, bullcorn. I don't believe her. Do you? Here's University of Pennsylvania management says, hey, Julia Alekasiva, if you want to keep your job, you got to issue an apology. And so she did. Nobody cares about her apology. I promise you. I promise you that. They really don't. Folks, let me tell you about my friends over at Get21Now.com. This is a company called NFN8. It is about Bitcoin mining at an institutional scale. They have secured these large warehouses, and they mine Bitcoin at a level to just make your head spin. They buy the electricity super cheap so they can mine this Bitcoin far cheaper than they sell it on the open market. They mine it, they sell it out. Your investment with them gets paid a 21% annualized interest payment to you paid monthly. So you get 21% on your money paid monthly, direct deposited into your account. How well does it work? Well, for me, last 4 or 5 months, it's working great. I know these guys. I've had meetings with them. I talk to them on a regular basis. They've helped some of my friends out. My friends are doing this. They have lived up to their promises so far with me. I urge you to check them out and talk to them. They are very bright guys. Get21now.com. Get21now.com. This is 21% on your money, annualized, paid monthly, direct deposit. This is like mailbox money, okay? NFN8 is the company. Again, go there. And hey, when you fill out the form, if they call you back, call them back, right? Or take the call, but don't waste their time. They're so busy. I mean, this has been a very, very popular program that they've got running. So again, 21%. You locked in on this. I love it. I really do. And I don't have all the headaches of running a business. Get21now.com. Get21now.com. All right. So they're doing great, and I'm glad, and all my sponsors are doing great. Next up, I think what we should talk about is, so I want to turn now to very big news. President Trump, Man of the Year, Time Magazine's Man of the Year. Not that I really care what Time Magazine thinks about President Trump, because Lord knows they were not on the Trump train. But remember, he got Time Magazine's Man of the Year in 2016. They were offering up like Kamala Harris as Woman of the Year. They had some other folks on the list who had no business even being there. President Trump, clearly with the greatest political victory of all time, Man of the Year. It makes a lot of sense. I'm glad he got it. And it was on display this morning. He opened up the stock market. Watch this.
The incoming leader of the free world is going to ring the bell here in about 20 seconds. An historic moment at the New York Stock Exchange as we get this opening bell rung by the president-elect, Donald Trump.
So there you have President Trump ringing the bell in front of his Time Magazine Man of the Year banner. And congratulations to President Trump. Now, the stock market's clearly been on a bull run. Gold has too, by the way. But we have a monster budget battle coming up in Congress. December 20th, funding runs out again. Doge is coming onto the scene. I'm not convinced Doge is going to be able to beat back the swamp and all of a sudden do all these great things, cutting spending. Do you know the sequestration? The pay-go number scorecard is $1.6 trillion. It exceeds the sequestration numbers. So now you need another bill in order to go to automatic cuts in Congress. This whole thing is an absolute disaster. Well, I want to bring in now our friends over at Colonial Metals. Paul Stone is with us. Paul, it is so great to see you, and welcome, my friend.
Great to see you, Grant. Yeah, it's always great to be back. And every time I see you, great memories come back to my mind, because when I was in the military, you are exactly like my first sergeant. You look like you're tough. You look like him, square jaw, fit, driven, intense, knowledgeable, wise. Yeah, I just love that.
Paul, would you like to come back tomorrow on the program?
Yeah.
No.
Chief Ray.
I wasn't a military guy, but obviously I have such great respect for the military and what they do. And it's so that's a really high compliment. Thank you for that. I wanted to ask you, though, what does this budget fight mean? Spending in Washington, I don't see it going anywhere. How does this play in? I'm constantly talking about Colonial Metals and how important it is to make gold part of your portfolio. And I always say it's not an either or. You can have multiple, assets that you're putting money towards. But what does all this mean for you, your business, metals in general?
Well, I've always kind of thought that when the name was drawn up there, and I think Trump invented it, drain the swamp. So just historically, that land that is Washington, D.C., was land shared by Maryland and Virginia, and it was a swamp. But it's not a swamp today. I mean, it hasn't been a swamp for a long time. It's made of concrete and steel and rigidity and all these old linkages amongst all these elected officials and just all these relationships and the lobbyists. I mean, my God, I think there's 5,400. I could be wrong. It might be 54,000, but I think it's 5,400 lobbyists that are in the, Washington elected officials' ears from Monday to Friday. You and I aren't there. Once in a while, there's some picketers outside. There might be a veterans rally. Right. But so it's made of concrete. It's not a swamp. You can't be drained. It has to be blown up. And since it can't be blown up, it's going to have to just go bankrupt. And the money printing can't stop. So Doge is an incredible thing. But this is where it really irritates me. It's giving people who are desperate for good news. And I don't like the word change anymore. The politicians have ruined that. I'm more for restoration.
Right.
Restoring, America to American-esque qualities. But it means everything for gold and silver because this is the last shot. This will probably be, and I think it could only be the mightiest attempt to try and slam some what are those wrecking balls to Washington's infrastructure, the political, the inept, the visionless, the spineless. I think it's going to be a hell of an attempt.
So, it's funny when you talk about concrete, it's not a swamp. I've actually, this reminds me of what I used to say. I said, it's not a swamp. It's actually a sewer. And you know what? A sewer is concrete. It goes.
The concrete drainage ditch that crap runs through all day long. And that's a good analogy.
That's what Washington is. So here we go. So Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy come on scene, and I applaud the effort. But when I look at where they can cut from, there are many things that are off limits. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, a lot of the welfare programs. These are the things that are really eating our budget alive. Can't touch those. You talked about cutting $190 billion, which is a huge number when you think about it. But we're trillions now in debt.
Yeah, seven
and
trillion.
So I don't even know if that makes a bump in all of this.
And is it immediate? I grew up outside D.C. and this is the way they think. So let's say they were last year, they planned to increase spending by 10% this year. And then they have some meetings before they actually put a budget forward and they only increase spending by 8%. So they'll come to the podium and go, we cut spending by 20%. That's literally how they look at it. That's just literally how they see the world. They come to the podium and do a bunch of this garbage. Oh, we cut spending 20%. Cutting spending 20% would mean if I had a $7 trillion budget last time, then I have a $5.6 trillion budget this time. That's cutting spending. And you know what, Grant, let's just touch on it. All of those programs have to stop. They have to.
Yeah.
Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, it has to stop. And people go, well, what are you going to do with other people? Well, so there's a better solution if private practice can get involved. There's a better solution if corporate brainiacs and brilliant engineer-minded people could get involved and go, how can this burden of non-working people that just get health care and just get Social Security checks actually not be a cost? Is spend a few years tooling on that, because those groups, those segments to our budget just keep growing. They get more expensive every year, which means you have to print more money every year, because politically no one can sit there and go, well, we're going to send your grandparents off to a sidewalk and they'll be eating Alpo for dinner.
Yeah.
By pulling that funding. But that is the funding that's killing the dollar. That is the funding that's driving up the debt.
And they don't even have the political will to talk about solutions that still wouldn't send your grandmother to the sidewalk. The Democrats would make it seem like it would. But even talk about privatizing part of these things and where people could still grandfathering people in certain places. They don't even have the political will to even start the discussion.
No. Right. And this is 50 years in now, like 50 years of weak-kneed politicians that all they care about is getting reelected. So I've been saying lately, can you serve can you have two wives, right? Can you perfectly serve two masters at the same time? No.
Yeah.
So who do the politicians really serve? Who's in their ear all day, Monday through Friday? The lobbyists.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not you and me. We're our day jobs, hoping that they have honor and ethics, and they're going to, honor the Constitution, which means they're honoring us.
So you add what's going on in Washington, a debt bomb that is literally exploding as we speak. I said it's about to explode. It's already exploded. We're under the crunch now. Then you have China, Russia, Iran, what is it, BRICS, this whole group of just really most of them are bad actors that want to wage war on the dollar. That's not going away because President Trump is coming into office. Now, they may be a little less vocal about it. They may try to be a little more sly about it. But I don't think that's going away, Paul.
No. So here's what, we got to quit. We got to quit playing checkers and learn how to play chess. Checkers is, it's each piece just gets to move one, and you get to jump some guy if your opponent's in front of you and there's nothing on the other side where you land. Okay, that's very binary. What would BRICS really support? BRICS would support that China goes, because they're smart. I'm not saying they have a lot of practice at running warfare, because they don't. They're ass kicked by Japan twice in the last 100 and some odd years. I don't know if they've ever won a war with another country. They've spent a lot of time warring with each other. And when they just shoot down all of our satellites, what's our economy? Oh, wait, what could they really? Why wouldn't they? That's how you get us. Now there's no sports. Now there's no news. Now there's no interconnectivity. Now there's military struggling like hell to communicate. They're going to start sending carrier pigeons back and forth from battleships in the seashore. So what would BRICS be? BRICS would be the currency then that would just be there to be used as all of the American allies suffer and struggle. And the countries that were prepared for when they want to create that struggle already have a plan in place.
It's a completely frightening scenario, and one we're probably not even really that far away from, and that's the sad reality of the situation. So in layman's terms, before I let you go, explain to the folks how gold protects you from, that's the worst case scenario, but tell me how gold protects you from situations like that.
Your money isn't there where the harm is done. You've moved it. So what gold and silver really is, the most plain spoken way to just make it, easy for people to consume in their minds, is all you're doing is relocating money from dollars to ounces out of the man-made financial system to the Mother Nature's money supply. And I'm not saying you're going to go shopping with gold and silver, and that's the easiest way to kill the argument to get it, because that's really hard to conceive of. That the grid is all down and everything's over and mass starvation happened and there's only a few million of us left here in the country. Yeah, well, then you would want gold and silver in that scenario. What I'm trying to talk about here is that it just insulates your money from damage done by these maniacal, inept, weak-kneed, cowardly government leaders all around the world, because when the damage hits the dollar, money wasn't there. It was in ounces of metal that you truly own and is either in a safe at home or in an IRA depository.
And let's face it, those cowards are not just overseas. They're in Washington as well.
Yeah,
and we talk about
everywhere.
Inflation, even if inflation comes down, right? And they say inflation, it's the rate of growth. That doesn't mean that the price of things start dropping. It only means that the price of things rising is slower, which nobody really thinks about it like that. And they need to, which is why I say gold, precious metals makes a great portfolio protection maneuver. Paul Stone with Colonial Metals Group. I'm going to tell people how they can find you. I'm so grateful for you coming on, talking about this stuff. I'm grateful for your support of this program and others like it. You guys put your money, put your gold where your mouth is. Your support of people like me is really says a lot. And I talk about a parallel economy. There's a lot of gold companies out there people can choose from. But I'm grateful for your support and what you're doing for my viewers and listeners and helping them protect their assets.
Yeah, I talk tough, and sometimes, my folks in my corner, they always, chide me for not being funny and not smiling very much when I'm on these shows. But I'm not covering how my team, won the Super Bowl or something. I'm not covering how my son had got married or something like that. We're covering bad news.
Yeah.
The good news is that people watching all have all the parts needed to protect themselves. The only missing ingredient is courage, and that's where me and Colonial Metals Group are special, because we know that. We're very humanistic. We know that you've been wanting to do this for years, and all that's needed is for you to find a little courage to start making incremental shifts That's all we want to help people be able to do. We don't hire any jerks here. So we're
and
honored to
real
be able
quick-
to work with you and your people, but that's my message to help folks get started.
And you're giving away some silver, too, on people's investment, depending on what the levels are. I urge people to talk to you about that, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, a little Americans like a little incentive. We're just trying to be helpful. I truly look at what we do at Colonial as we're like paramedics that are trying to show up before you're in the accident.
Yeah. Well, you guys are great. Again, thank you, Paul Stone, Colonial Metals Group, and appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Grant. Hoorah.
Absolutely. You got it. And folks, let me tell you where you can find Paul and his guys, and they're great. They've helped, like I said, so many of our viewers. The viewership on Rumble has just been so engaged with Colonial Metals. And so, as you know, I know Paul now, and these are guys you can trust, and that's a big thing. If I tell you that, I mean it, right? So there's a lot to choose from. Colonial Metals Group, I would urge you to pay them a visit. And here's the deal. Just go to freegoldguide.com. That's freegoldguide.com/Grant. freegoldguide.com/Grant. You can use the little QR code up on the screen or call them at 800-458-7356. That's 800-458-7356. A big thanks to the folks over at Colonial Metals Group. So it's great having them on. All right, so I want to turn now to one of the benefits of Rumble, of all of you, of Stinchfield's Army. The benefit is the fact that we are winning elections. We are making waves. We've got the left now noticing us on outlets like this, literally podcasts like Stinchfield, like my buddy Charlie Kirk and Dan Bongino and all the gang here at Rumble that are making waves. The left is noticing us. Not that I care that Jasmine Crockett realizes that we've got the upper hand right now, but as a little pat on the back, I want you to just listen to this from Meet the Press.
Why do you think Democrats lost, and what do you think needs to happen by the midterms and the next presidential election in order to find your footing again?
Well, Kristen, no disrespect to you. I think you do great work. But the reality is that those that tune in to traditional news sources, they absolutely went for us. And we know that the standards that you have to live by as an actual journalist are completely different from other platforms. And so we know that we were winning for those that were tuning into the traditional news sources. But when it came down to people getting their news from places that really aren't even news sources, they were going for Donald Trump by 19 points. And that is exactly why we lost. The reality is that we're going to have to play in spaces that we've never had to play and make sure that we're communicating in all ways. Unfortunately, we can't just rely on the mainstream media to get our message across.
Are you kidding me? The mainstream media controls the Democrat politicians like Jasmine Crockett. They can rely on the mainstream media. The problem, the problem is with their voting base. It's not where they're getting the message from. It's that their voting base is not engaged. There's a reason why conservative media has always been popular. As I've told you before, it all started with talk radio. Liberal talk radio has never been successful. Conservative talk radio always has. In fact, it's some of the most successful radio. Why? Because conservatives are hungry to learn. They're hungry for information. They're hungry to educate themselves. That's what this podcast is about. That's what the Real America's Voice show is about. That's what we do here. Liberals don't want to. They'd rather watch Entertainment Tonight at the most innocent level. And at the worst level is, they're off rioting in the streets. But they're not searching out alternative sources of information. Why do you think CNN last night got beat by Food Network? That's right. CNN got beat by Food Network. There's a reason for that. The American people have woken up. Says, you know what? We're not getting our news from the mainstream media outlets, which then leaves only the leftists to go there, and the leftists don't want to be educated, so they got nobody left watching. Where, again, we're recruiting people into our conservative movement. Our ranks are growing, and as the ranks grow, you have more and more people hungry, thirsty for knowledge. And that's why they tune into programs like this and others like it here on Rumble and Real America's Voice and One American News. And congratulations to my buddy Matt Gaetz, who's going to be over on One American News. I think that's going to be great for him. I believe there's strength in numbers. It's not a competition to me. I want the word spread far and wide so we take back America and we help President Trump do it. It's that simple. You know who else thinks like that? My friends over at Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile is where I want you to go. 972-PATRIOT, 972-PATRIOT. Get a Patriot Mobile phone like me. I've got an iPhone that I signed up through Patriot Mobile. I've got 2 lines on this phone, one from T-Mobile, one from Verizon. So no matter what city I go to, I've got a network that works. And the customer service is all based right here in the United States. It's fabulous. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. Switching is so easy. Literally, call them up. They'll give you an eSIM number. The next thing you know, you're on a Patriot Mobile phone. You're going to save money, okay? You're going to have better customer service. You don't have to worry about having any sacrifice in service because you pick the network what you want to be on. And you're going to know that every time you make a phone call, you're moving to push America in the right direction. Parallel economy, parallel economy, parallel economy. Support the companies that support us. Patriot Mobile, I'm grateful to you, man. I really am. Thank you. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. 972-PATRIOT, 972-PATRIOT. Use the promo code GRANT for a free month's service. All right. So did you know that the border now has another surge? The surge has been going on for 4 years, by the way. We know that. And in fact, the New York Times comes out with an article yesterday basically explaining the surge. Says that never have we seen an influx of illegals like we have over the last 4 years since 1850. 1850. That's craziness, folks. That was like when all of my ancestors were coming through Ellis Island. Yes, I'm half Italian. Yes, I had ancestors come through Ellis Island. That was one way to do it. They were doing it legally. They say the number is going to be about 6 million people. It's not. 20 million people. That's what I believe they're pushing. And now, with Donald Trump on the horizon, what do you think is happening? There is a rush at the border. So every night on Real America's Voice, my buddy Oscar Ramirez and Ben Berkwam, all this week, they're covering these border issues. They're traveling around Mexico, have been covering this situation. So I want to go out to Oscar Ramirez, who filed this for me, and show you the rush at the border that the mainstream media is not telling you about.
Oscar Blue for Real America's Voice is behind me. You can see a massive group of people arriving for the CBP-1 app to enter the United States of America. The strategy has changed from the government of Mexico. They moved them from the other pedestrian port of entry and they moved them to this one. There's 2 pedestrian port of entry. So what they do is these people have just arrived on a plane. They put them through their private intake, and they move them to this particular lane. Well, you see, some of them are still waiting right here. Then the Institute of National Immigration of Mexico comes and picks them up and takes them all the way into the intake, the other intake, for them to enter the United States of America. So the CBP-1 continues massively still to enter the United States before Donald Trump enters to take power on January 20th.
El CBP-1 ya vas para adentro. Sí, bendito Dios, ya nos salió la cita después de 5 meses en México. Ya nos salió la cita, gracias a Dios.
¿Dónde esperaste los 5 meses?
En Ciudad de México.
Ciudad de México.
Sí.
¿Cómo estuvo tu estadía en México? ¿Cuánto te gastaste dinero? Porque es un dineral.
Sí, bueno, más que todo entrando a México, de Chiapas a Ciudad de México, pues se gasta un dineral por el paso, hay que pagar piso, hay que hacer muchas cosas y para poder estar bien, por lo menos en mi caso que venía con mi familia, la prioridad son ellos.
Por fin, después de 5 meses ya llegaste.
Sí, gracias a Dios ya se me aprobó mi cita y bueno, fue duro el proceso, pero aquí estamos ya, gracias a Dios.
Ahora, ¿qué opinas de que va a haber una deportación masiva? Específicamente Donald Trump se enfoca en la deportación masiva de criminales que han llegado y han dado una mala imagen a los migrantes. ¿Qué opinas de eso?
Bueno, estaría bien si es así, de esa manera. Si van a estar deportando a los criminales, los que han cometido delitos en Estados Unidos o en sus naciones, si son criminales, entonces yo estaría de acuerdo que sí, pues deberían sacarlo. O los que están pidiendo, los que no están haciendo nada, los que están generando un gasto para el Estado, bueno, estaría de acuerdo a que fueran deportados. Pero si una persona que está trabajando legalmente y está bien, o sea, no le encuentro lógica de que sea deportado.
You see what this guy's saying? I got to break it off here. I'm going to go back to Oscar Ramirez in a second. Like, this guy, I don't mind a guy like this coming into the United States, providing he's telling the truth, and he does it the right way. Now, in his mind, he's doing it the right way. And this poses an interesting question. What is going to be the ability of President Trump, Tom Homan, and ICE to deport people who came in using the CBP-1 app? When you use the CBP-1 app, now you didn't sneak into the country. You're registered with the United States. What Joe Biden did was he basically legalized illegals by making an end run around the law at no fault of the illegals using the CBP-1 app. Now think about that. It's not their fault. They were offered up an opportunity, okay? It's like me. Do I take COVID money for my business? If the federal government's going to be giving COVID money for the business, why not take it? It's not my fault that it's a complete waste. Lord knows I pay enough in taxes. Well, I'm going to take some from the federal government if they're handing it out. You can't blame these people. But his comment there was, if you're committing crimes, deport you. If you're on the streets begging and using health care and not contributing to society, deport you. This from a guy who's coming in on CBP-1. Now, they're not all like this guy, I'm sure. But it was somewhat refreshing.
¿Qué opinas de que va también a eliminar la cita del CBP-1 ya entrando el año el 20 de enero?
Bueno, si elimina esa cita CBP-1, entonces contribuiría a que personas se desesperen y busquen tratar de entrar de mil maneras, ilegalmente.
All right, so if they scrap the CBP-1 app, he says people will get desperate and try to come in illegally. See, they don't even realize that I believe the CBP-1 app is illegal. But this is why border security is a must, because we know that's going to happen. Scrap the CBP-1 app, secure the border, finish the wall. Now you fixed much of the problem.
Entonces no le encuentro lógica tampoco.
Es un peligro, ¿no? Entrar con el coyote, con el traficante y todo lo que se avienta en la travesía.
Concha, eso es lo peor del mundo. Eso es lo peor. De manera ordenada con la CBP-1 es lo más correcto. Es lo más legal.
And it is like that. CBP-1 is still in full effect in the port of entry of Matamoros next to Bronzeville, just next steps away from Bronzeville. There are migrants behind me. They are just waiting for the Institute of National Immigration to come and pick them up with their units and take them to another intake for them to enter under the CBP-1 app. It is still in effect, the CBP-1 app, as hundreds and thousands are still awaiting in the central parts of Mexico, but they are flying them into Mexico, and from there, they are being crossed into the United States of America. Oscar Blue with Ben Berquam from the city of Matamoros next to Bronzeville in Mexico.
God bless you, Oscar Ramirez and Ben Berquam. These guys do tremendous work. You hear what he's spelling out, though? You've got nonprofits in Mexico picking up the illegals, driving them to the border, the port of entry, and then they flood the zone here. I mean, this is the pictures.
App to enter the United States of America.
Look.
The strategy has changed from the government of Mexico. They moved them from the other pedestrian port of entry, and they moved them to this one.
This is insanity. I can't wait for President Trump to get here soon enough to shut this nonsense all down. And it needs to be shut down, and it needs to be shut down soon. The fact that this is still going on, and Joe Biden's MIA. You know, as much as Joe Biden is president, President Trump is president right now. In fact, I think President Trump is having a more of an effect on the world stage than Joe Biden is, and President Trump's not even president yet. Can you imagine what President Trump will get done once he gets into office? It's going to be great. Folks, before I let you go, do you have one of these kits? This is the Wellness Company kit. All right. If you don't have one, you're not prepared. Food, water, power supply, ammunition, guns, and prescription medications. That's what you need. This will provide you prescription medications. 8 of the most common, most often used, including ivermectin, is in this kit. I want you to get one. Just go to twc.health/grant. They'll be prescribed directly to you. Nobody else is really doing this the way the Wellness Company is. twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT. And by the way, they got a field kit now that apparently has like all the kits combined. It's like this kit on massive steroids. I want one of those. In fact, I'm going to ask for one for Christmas. twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT and you will not regret it. Folks, I'm so grateful to all of you. I'm grateful to Rumble and wherever you're watching. Please, please, please share this video, okay? It is really important that we spread the word as far and wide as possible as we try to grow this platform, and we are growing like wildfire. I wouldn't be surprised if I could say we're one of the fastest growing podcasts on Rumble right now. And that's because of all of you. Stinchfield's Army rolls, man. It really does. Merry Christmas to everybody. I hope you're getting a lot of your shopping done. You know, I go into stores now, and I make it a point to say Merry Christmas to everybody at the counter. And I don't care what religion you are. I'm going to tell you Merry Christmas. That's I'm a Christian, so Merry Christmas. Do you know I'm now 5 for 5? I say Merry Christmas. They say Happy Holidays back to me. 5 for 5. So I'm keeping a running tally on this. Why don't they say Merry Christmas back? Because the media has trained them not to. It isn't right. It really isn't. All right, folks. Real America's Voice show tonight. Again, we'll have Oscar and Ben live from Mexico to expose more of this craziness going on the border. That's 7 p.m. Eastern time. Stick around for that. God bless all of you. We'll see you soon.